Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. This one's definitely going to be a little bit different than a lot of the other, deck profiles, quote-unquote, so to speak, that I've covered in the past, because I'm not actually going to be playing or talking about my own deck. No, I decided to do a video covering each of the new learner decks. We are going to be playing them in Master Rank. I'm going to back out here so you can see that I am, in fact, in Master 4, and as you can tell by the fact that, well, I've already gotten these replays, I have actually managed to so far not drop rank playing these learner decks. Of course, we've already talked about the learner decks themselves in the latest This Week in Master Duel, where we did a brief overview of each of them, but of course this one's going to be a little bit more in depth. So, starting off with Cyber Dragon. This is actually not a deck that I have played before in the past. That said, I don't think the strategy here is too terribly complicated. That is, of course, part of the point of these decks, right? Is to be good introduction tools for duelists who are relatively new to either the game as a whole or competitive play, to be able to utilize them. And I think they actually do a pretty good job in that regard, even in their iterations they are here in Master Duel. Of course, these are also real-life products over in Japan in the OCG, and like with MIDI structure decks or products of that nature, you're typically going to want to buy multiple copies. But here at Master Duel, we only get the one copy, which does only have a 10-card extra deck. I will say that is a pretty big point of, I don't want to say contention, because I do think this is overall a great idea. I am very, very happy that they've not only released this product in the OCG, but also let us try it out in Master Duel. But I will say, especially for Master Duel in particular, I feel like it would have made more sense to have a 15-card extra deck. I understand, again, that in real life, the idea is that you either buy multiple copies and get multiple copies of cards to the extra that way, or you supplement cards through your own collection. But again, for Master Duel specifically, I think that was honestly probably one of the biggest hurdles, is not having a full extra deck and not having nearly as many options. Of course, each of these only has 10 cards, not a full 15. But that aside, that is really my one major issue with these decks. I think that overall, this is an overwhelmingly positive thing for the game. So, talking about this list in particular here, Cyber Dragon is by nature of the archetype already a going second deck a lot of the time. In fact, almost every single time. And this kind of build here definitely accentuates that. I think there are other ones. There were Feather Duster and or Lightning Storm, but the fact that this deck has Raigeki on top of those, as well as, of course, 2 copies of Lightning Storm, and Triple Tactics Talent, and Droplet, and Red Reboot, and also Thrust, and also Salesman, definitely inclines us to want to go second. And in fact, every single game, even ones where I won the coin flip, we're going to see that I did, in fact, end up going second there. So, as far as the strategy itself, this one is more of a fusion deck. We are actually focusing on Power Bond. From what I can tell, again, I'm not a Cyber Dragon main or expert. I don't even own the deck, honestly. But from what I can tell, I don't think the Power Bond into a big Cyber End or Chimera Tech Rampage is super necessary. But it's definitely not bad. It's an OTK strategy, and this deck does give a good example of introducing new duelists to that kind of going second OTK strategy. So, like I said, we are going to be taking a look at some replays here. I'm not going to read out every single card here in the deck because, well, if you are curious about it, you can just go into Master Duel and click on the Decisive Strike Cyber Dragon deck and check it out for yourself. Out of the 3 decks, I do think that this one, if I had to say that they are best to worst, which I don't really being forced, I kind of do think you can pretty easily rate them best to worst. I do think this is the worst one, honestly. And not just because Cyber Dragon is the worst of the archetypes in terms of power level of the 3. Actually, in terms of overall archetypes and not the loner decks themselves, I think it is kind of debatable whether Eldritch or Cyber Dragon is truly the weaker archetype right now. I think you probably see more well, I don't know, ever since Horus came out, Eldritch has gotten a little bit more popular again. But anyway, yeah, no, so but as far as the loner deck builds themselves, I think that this is probably the weakest deck, just because, well, especially going into ranked ladder, going second, we are facing more stronger and consistent builds and their inboards, right? I guess we do have the Kaiju as well. I forgot about that with the going second cards there, the Jizukira. But, and again, on top of the fact that we're already playing such a much weaker deck in the form of the Loner deck, does make going second a little bit more difficult. But also, I think our OTK is, I mean, it's not very hard to pull off, but it's also not the most likely to pull off either. So, in any case, though, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about this particular deck. So we're going to take a look at some replays where, again, I played in Ranked Ladder in Master Rank. And yeah, we'll see how those games go. Okay, so this is going to be our first opponent. They are on Horus tier limit. So we are not only just, you know, going into Ranked Ladder, but we are going to be facing against meta decks with our Cyber Dragon Loner deck. So this hand's actually not bad at all. As you can see from up here, we did win the coin flip but elected to go second. Oh yeah, this is Horus tier limit, but they are also taking a small Manadia package as well, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's not expansive enough to, I think, warrant calling it a Manadian deck, but it is still a very cool package. The Manadium engine they have here. Our opponent's deck build is pretty cool here overall. So definitely get a Lightning Storm in the back row. Turns out to be a set Scream, so they are going to get to add a Soliac from deck to hand. Not ideal, but if we do manage to OTK here, it's not going to be the end of the world. Unfortunately for us, the Cyber Dragon core is going to get hit with an Ash Blossom. However, we do have a Machine Duplication in hand. It's a little unlucky that we open one of the Cyber Dragons, though. And you might be thinking, well, what do you mean? Are you going to summon 2 more core? No, core is treated as Cyber Dragon on the field, so Machine Duplication will summon out more Cyber Dragons from deck. It's a bit of a shame. I think if I'd had, like... Well, Galaxy Soldier requires a light discard, so maybe not that one. If I'd had the Cyber Dark Chimera, it definitely would have been a lot better off. Same with the Regulus, but those are also one-ups in this deck, so... Hurts, Noster, I don't know. Anyway, we do get to make an Infinity here after dealing some damage to our opponent, so... you know, I'm feeling relatively optimistic going into this turn, and they actually end up conceding into the Infinity here. But the reason I was feeling relatively optimistic is because I didn't think their hand was very live. The fact that we opened, they opened rather, with the Manadium Rimheart, and we were so easily able to stop it, and that ended their turn, tells me that the fact that I have an Omni Negate is probably going to be enough to get me there, and we even have the Maxi for backup. So sure enough, they concede, not even wanting to play on turn 3 at all here. It's funny and satisfying. Oh, I wonder what they must be thinking. I wonder if they ever looked and noticed I had the 10-card extra deck. But anyway, let's check out our next game here. Alright, this opponent is going to be on Snake Eye. Yep, and they're attacking the Bestials. I think I know why they're attacking the Bestials too. They have a Royal Magnum Hunt and a Royal Druid Swarm. Very nice for the opponent here. They win the coin flip going first. That's completely fine with us. This hand is actually looking pretty solid. We have both Droplet and Lightning Storm and Call By. A nice arsenal of tools to help against the Snake Eye board here. Looks like they're going to lead with Poplar, add the Original Sin. Poplar, while not the most ideal opening line for Snake Eye, is still a full combo by itself. So they're going to go for the Link Rebo, Original Sin to summon out the Ash by sending off the Poplar and the Spell Trap, Ash F to add yet another, actually no, it's Birch here. They get to add a copy of Birch, which is actually a really big pro of playing Birch. It makes the opening Poplar a lot better. I've actually been thinking of trying Snake Eye again and trying it no Cashiers with all Link and playing Birch instead of Jet Synchron. I have considered that build here. Anyway, they do get to continue going off here. Oak going to pull out the Flamberge. Or sorry, Ash pulling out the Flamberge, going into the IP Masquerena. Flamberge F will summon out the Ash and the... Oh no, they did have Oak. Oh, did they normal summon it? Is that what happened? Hang on. I glossed over that. What happened with the Oak there? When did that come into rotation? Oh, no, they did Ash for Oak, and then they brought back Birch. I see. And then we still Link Reaper on the field. Gotcha. Okay, so... Promethean Princess, yep, Flamberge. Again, pretty typical Snake Eye combo. It's actually been a hot minute, no pun intended, since I've played Snake Eye. I think that playing them so much in the Challenger Cup, right? I kind of wore myself out a little bit. I really do like to play a lot of different decks, you know, throughout the course of a season. Oh, they're going for Zealantis, right? I thought they were going for another Raging Phoenix for a second. I forgot. I thought it was Salamangreat, but... Yeah, so they're making the Zealantis here. I'm trying to remember why they did this. Because usually you would just stop at the Raging Phoenix. Okay, they have a Diabell. Setting the Silvera. And they passed. Yeah, I don't know why there's the Atlantis here, but okay. Triple attack might not be a horrible draw here. Gonna lead with the Lightning Storm, of course, going to proc the Silvera, but I do have Droplet as well, so I can send the Lightning Storm that way, because Silvera has to negate a card that is on the field, right? So that means that if Lightning Storm is on the field, it can't be negated. Also, don't really know why our opponent did the IP here, because it just gets destroyed at this point, and then we can still Droplet and negated it, even if it did live. So this will proc a whole slew of effects here. The Raging Phoenix and the Diablo are going to come back, as well as, of course, the Flamberge F going to proc. Going to use the Call By on the Flamberge, but we do still have that Promethean Princess to deal with here. So we're getting there. We're getting close. It's actually, again, this deck surprisingly, or this hand, I guess, in particular, surprisingly efficient at breaking apart this board going second so far. They even pitched an effect failure from hand. That's actually pretty good for us. It does kind of tell me they probably have another hand trap, though, if they were willing to get rid of a Veiler for the Diabel here. Diabel going to set a Wanted for some follow-up plays, looks like. Here I'm going to use the Cyberdark Realm, and it turns out their last card does end up being an Ash Blossom for said realm. So that'll negate my search for the Chimera. I'm going to summon Cyber Dragon, but yep, there is the Promethean Princess to pop. It's a shame, too, because I would have actually had plays here. My plan was, I mean, well, of course, Promethean Princess was always going to foil this, but I guess what I could have done, I should say, is I could have specialed Cyber Dragon, triple attack to steal the Diabel, link them both into the Sky Striker Ace Azalea, Azalea F to pop, I can pop the face down card, and then Azalea also has this other effect where you can battle into a monster and banish a spell from your yard and destroy it. So that would have enabled me to destroy the Raging Phoenix, and again, if not for a Princess, that would have actually been a full board clear. It's insane. I've said this before in so many other videos. It's honestly pretty wild how close you can get to breaking boards with hands that might not seem like they can get there. Like, a lot of the time when I do a turn one combo with like any given deck and my opponent just immediately concedes in the board, I don't know. I would love to be able to see their hand, because I would love to be able to sit on the opponent's side and try to pick apart my own board in theory with the cards they have in hand, or at least see how close you can get. And you would be surprised how often it comes down to one card or one effect making the difference between you being able to come back or not. And this was one of those cases. And again, I'm sitting here playing a loner deck with a 10-card extra deck against the best deck in the meta right now. So I think that really goes to show, while we are not going to be able to come back here, the strength that decks you would expect to have, you know, the things that they are capable of, right? Yeah, no, from here, it's just going to be the opponent doing all of the, well, I don't know about the usual Snake Eye stuff. It's obviously, you know, when it gets to turn 3, the follow-up turn, you kind of just do things in whatever order, but haven't really used my Ash Blossom just because, like, I don't know, what's it gonna do here, right? Like, one Ash Blossom can't, unfortunately, stop everything that's happening here, so yeah, it was close, but, you know, it's a lot closer than you might think the Cyber Dragon Loner deck would do, again, against the literal best deck in the meta. We do still have a couple more games, though, so let's check out the next one here. Alright, got a game against Runic Stun. Got the whole... well, I was going to call it the Rogues Gallery, but a lot of it is tiered decks. If anything, we're the Rogue. So, losing the coin flip, again, we do not mind at all. And you might already see how we're going to manage to come ahead in this game. So, they are going to lead with the Hugin here. Hugin F with the flashing... or rather, they summoned Hugin off the Flashing Fire. Hugin F pitching the Ash Blossom to add the Fountain. That's all during the draw phase there. Fountain coming down, activating the Slumber, of course, on the Hugin. We lost Galaxy Soldier, Raigeki, and Cyber Repair Plans. We only have one copy Repair Plan, but it's really not, like, super duper necessary, so... Desires for the +2 here, setting 3 and then passing over to us. So, of course, it's not as simple as just summoning down Duster. We have to take care of the Hugin first. But it is as simple as normal summoning Cyber Dark Core. They have a There Can Be Only One, which is, again, specifically us, very, very much not good. But, again, not going to matter too much here, because I'm going to battle with the core. Thankfully, they don't have another Slumber. They are going to use the 2 spells from hand, the Smithing Storm and the Golden Droplet to get a draw 2 off the fountain before I wipe the board. I assume they know it's coming at this point, right? Like, I think any Runic player would be able to realize that, like, oh, they're about to battle over my Hugin. Yeah, I know what comes up next. So, actually, let's go back to the graveyard and see what all we destroyed there. It was Synchro Zone was the other trap card. This is the... Wait, why didn't they use this? Huh? Wait, I didn't even notice this during the actual game. Why did they not flip this up before I declared an attack? Did you just forget? Or... Because I would not have been able to... I don't know. Okay, whatever. We'll take it, though. Wow, I didn't even realize that. And they had a call by face down as well. Okay, so... And then they just conceded that. I guess they must have forgotten, and that was like a shame concede. You know, again, it's funny, during the game itself, I didn't even pay attention to what got destroyed. I just saw the dust resolved, and then, like, again, like 5 seconds later, they conceded, and I was just like, okay, cool. I beat Stun with the Cyber Dragon Loner deck. That's sweet. But now I see why they did. I think what happened, maybe they didn't I don't know. I guess they just weren't paying attention or something. That's the only thing I can assume. Or maybe they thought they could do it when I had already declared the attack, but they didn't really try to flip it up is the thing, though, which is kind of weird. They must have just not been paying attention and realized too late. That's going to be my only assumption there. So there's that one. I'm trying to think if... See, that's the thing with it. There can be only one. If we hadn't been able to get rid of the Hugin, we actually would have been in a lot of trouble. Like, Rivalry we can play through. Gozen we can play through. Skill Drain isn't even the worst because we can just summon decent-sized bodies at least. But there can be only one is specifically the very best floodgate to have against this deck in particular. But thankfully, we managed to come ahead anyway. We do have one last game to check out, so let's finish off with that one. Alright, our final opponent is going to be another Snake Eye deck. So, you know, I wondered if I was going to run into other Loners in Master. Maybe if I was at Master 5, but I guess not at Master 4. People were just try-harding still. I mean, not that I blame them, of course, but, like, I don't know. I guess I thought I was going to run into at least one, but I haven't yet so far. Anyway. Violet with Diabell Pitch Oak, was it? Yes, to set the Wanted. Royal Wanted, wow, very pretty. So, naturally, yep, we can assume they have the original set in hand. It would be nice, I mean, I will say, it'd be nice if I had, like, a third Ash Blossom or Maxi to open some of the time. I guess that is my other kind of major gripe with this deck that I didn't really talk about in the profile or whatever when we were looking at the list. On top of a 10-card extra deck is that you're not on max copies of hand traps. But at the same time, as weird as this might sound, I actually understand, and I don't even disagree that that's a horrible decision for an introduction product, because it can kind of show you the importance of consistency, right? Because that moment I literally just had right now, right, of like, wow, if I had more copies of these hand traps, it would make going second a lot easier, is also a moment that somebody who is using this deck and being introduced to competitive play would eventually figure out. And then they have that, like, aha moment, right? Of like, oh, if I put in more hand traps, then I'll have a better time going second. Like, and I think that is a very important thing to have. Like, one common complaint I've seen so far about these loner decks is that they're not optimally tuned, or that they're not... they're not just, like, better archetypes. Like, I've seen, like, oh, they should give players, like, a Rescue Ace deck instead, to try out instead of, like, Cyber Dragon for whatever reason. Also, here, by the way, we can Salesman the IP, Special Cyber Dragon, eat the Apo by going into Chimera Tech Mega Fleet, which is Cyber plus any monster in the extra zone. I gotta summon a couple of the Galaxy Soldiers here, going into the Nova. With this, I can overlay into Infinity and now battle over the Flamberge and negate it with the Infinity Omni-Negate effect. So, going into battle phase here, again, we're battling over the Flamberge. As it activates, we're going to negate with the Infinity. That way they can't get back their stuff and get more advantage. And yeah, we're looking pretty good in that so far. But no, yeah, I think that, like, one, if you hand a new player like a fully optimized deck, they're not gonna necessarily, like, pick it up at the same rate. And I also think that the reason they chose Cyber Dragon, Eldritch, and Live Twin is that they're relatively simple versions of archetypes of decks we already see. And, like, let's be real, Snake Eye is I think Snake Eye is a little, like, slightly, not too much, but a little too complex for a like new to the competitive scene player to like immediately grasp, right? Rescue Ice, I think definitely. So, well, Rescue Ice is actually a little easier because, you know, you go Turbulence and then set for it, but still, I understand why they made the choices they did, and I also think it's important for people to learn. Like, it's the whole, you know, mantra of like, you know, teach a person to, give a person a fish and they'll be fed for a day, teach a person to fish, they'll be fed for life, right? If you hand a person a deck with optimized hand traps, then, you know, they'll have that build, but they, you know, when the time comes for a meta change, they might need to pick different hand traps or whatever, they might not be as used to adjusting the ratios. But if you give them a slightly unoptimized list with, you know, 2 of just some of the hand traps, and you introduce them to the idea of adding more to increase consistency and help them in certain situations, now you're teaching them to fish. So that's kind of my thoughts on the structures of the list there. Overall, like I said in the previous video, I am a huge fan of these lists. I think this is a phenomenal idea, and I personally would love to see more like this from Konami, especially in the TCG. Konami, I would buy these products in the TCG. Anyway, so that is going to ultimately be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching these games. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.